Hey Moonlovers, welcome to another episode of All Things Moon with myself, Kelly Jones, Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life. And I am so sorry that I didn't show up last week. That full moon totally got me, just wiped me out. And I just had to take some time off from sitting at this desk, getting all the technology out, being on social media, just some offline time. And, I walk my talk, practice what I preach, and I put self care first. I'd be interested to know how any of you experienced the full moon energy that we had. It was pretty powerful with that conjunction with Uranus, some sudden shocking things happening. I do know some stories, but I'm not going to repeat them on here because I've got so much to fit in because the time has arrived. And on Tuesday, November 19th, Pluto finally moved into Aquarius and will not be heading back into Capricorn again throughout my lifetime anyway, or any of our lifetimes here, because he takes 248 years to go around the zodiac. So, but we are in this time of Aquarius, this Aquarian age where technology, innovation and futuristic things, anything is Uranusly possible. So who knows, we may work out a way to live for the next 248 years. But in the meantime, the next 20 years, Pluto will be in the sign of Aquarius, and it has happened. And I think because it happened so close, we had that full moon on the 15th, and then that happened on the 19th. These slow, heavy moving planets. We've also got Mercury slowly coming into port with the waves of Mercury affecting communication and travel. It's been a real sort of heavy, intense feeling. And I really did feel that, I had to really do everything I could to pull it out of the bag to raise my frequency up. And if we think of Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, and that really representing working hard, serious hard work, then my partner Tom, who's in Aquarius, he had enough of all this hard work. So for the past 2 weekends, he's taken himself away into the woods in the camper van. First time, weekend before last, he went with a friend of his in his friend's camper van. And I did warn him that Mercury was in its shadow phase, beginning to turn retrograde. He always seems to tie in these trips with that. And he contacted me to say that, they'd had a power outage, they had no power, but also on confusion over communication regarding travel plans. Instead of going to Wales, his friend actually booked them into a campsite in Gloucestershire. They didn't go to Wales at all. Almost there, but not quite. So he came back quite frustrated, quite disappointed, which really tied in with, I think that was like a Venus-Neptune energy of disappointment in, a relationship, which was his friend had, not really listened to the communication and booked them into somewhere where they couldn't even have a fire pit. So the last weekend, he took himself off on his own. But the reason that he could do that was because we had to have a new battery fitted. So we've had to have all new batteries, the actual main battery in the vehicle and the leisure batteries. They had all gone. So we've just had those replaced in the past week or so as well. So, I always tell you these stories to show you how in the mundane world they can be playing out, and we could be feeling, oh no, it's happening to me again. But actually, when we look around, the chances of these things happening are really high. So him being an Aquarius, he was seeking that sort of freedom from the hard work. and took himself into the woods. And he was like, all I want to do is chop wood, make fire, walk in the woods, do nothing, and eat food. And that is what he did. And I've got to say, this past week, his frequency has been raised for sure. So before he came back last weekend, because, I ended up not recording this podcast, not doing any of the things that I had intended to do, I deliberately put some music on before he came home, and I danced in this room, shaking it all out of me and, bringing up my own frequency so that when he walked in the door, we could match our frequency. And we've had a much better week between us, which has also included a wedding on Thursday. So some wonderful friends of ours got married. We were invited to the whole day. Totally raised our frequency up because the father of the groom had hired an actor to be a funny waiter that greeted you at the door and sort of tried to rip your coat off of you and was falling over things and eating the canapes and stuff like this. And at first nobody knew what was going on, and then we all realized he was there for entertainment, and we had a good old laugh, as well as a dance and meeting new people and eating tons of food. I've barely eaten anything since Thursday. But also, just interestingly, there was what's called a sextile, which is an astrological aspect when two planets are 60 degrees apart. And that was Venus was in a sextile to Saturn. And that is a perfect energy for marriage. Venus love, Saturn commitment. So they literally, without even knowing it, booked their wedding day on a Venus-Saturn sextile day. So, I love it when this stuff, just proves itself to be there, to be real. So yes, again, I really do apologise for my absence last week, but I'm back here, a little croaky, and I think that's still since the wedding, because it's always loud, and my voice doesn't cope very well when I've got to be loud and talk over things. So apologies for my croak. So yes, Pluto has entered Aquarius. We've also had the Sun enter Sagittarius, so we are out of that deep, dark underworld Scorpio shadow work energy. Although I would say we have got a new moon coming up next weekend. That will be on the 1st of December here in the UK, and early hours of the morning. So it's about, I think, 6:28, I think, in the morning. Don't quote me on that, but it's around about that time, 6:30 in the morning time. And Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, should be lighter. It should be more optimistic. The Sagittarius is the philosopher energy. It's the big picture. It's not the nitty-gritty details. There are some slightly negative connotations too around that new moon, so it might not be quite as optimistic as we'd like it to be, because I've only got to look out the window now to see that we have some terrible storm arriving. It is dark out there. The wind is howling. The rain is whipping around. I've actually had to tie some string around my middle door there, which I need to keep shut when I'm recording because of the sound of the traffic outside my house. But it kept blowing open, so the cats have had fun with me tying string to the door, because it kept freaking them out with the door opening. It was like, enter, who's coming in? And so what else? So we've got the sun in Sagittarius, we've got a new moon next weekend. Today is the last quarter moon phase in the sign of Virgo today. So that's where the moon is, in its last quarter moon. And the moon, on my way home from that wedding on Thursday evening, I don't think I've ever seen the moon look like that. It was absolutely incredible. So you think it's its last quarter moon, so you can only see like the bottom part of it. And it was almost like it was touching the earth, and it was the color of my hair. It was just astonishing how low down, how massive it was, and the color of it. It really looked like it was on fire, almost more like a sunset than a moon. But it was 10 o'clock at night, so it was definitely the moon. And Jupiter has been shining down on my bedroom window every single night recently before I go to bed. So I have been going out there and standing underneath Jupiter, just absorbing some of its expansive, optimistic, positive, and lucky energy. We've also got Mercury turning retrograde this coming week, but I'm sure you're probably already experiencing that. And I've got some like keywords that I've written here. Collective awakenings. This Pluto in Aquarius ruled, one of its rulers, its actual ruler is Saturn. Still the traditional ruler is Saturn. So it's very paradoxical, Aquarius, because it has Saturn and Uranus as its rulers, and they are the opposites to each other. So Uranus really represents awakenings. And after that full moon conjunct with Uranus last week, as Pluto moved into Aquarius, awakenings are likely. And I, again, are having conversations with people, at the wedding, with young people, with people coming to my classes that I just don't think I would have had a few years ago. People are definitely starting to wake up to something that they didn't realize before. This energy is really going to revolutionize our current reality. It's, as I said, very paradoxical. Is it this or is it that? As we see the end of this Saturnian time that we've been in, as we move into this more Uranian space-like futuristic, it really represents the sky god of the air. It's an air sign. It represents space travel, air travel. We will be having to decondition ourselves from our past, and some of us have been doing that already, and more people will be needing to do that to be able to move on and to release that resistance to change. It will be that, like, we're being liberated from the old traditions, the old ways, the heaviness of the weight of those old traditions. Saturn is very much to do with time, and this time, this era that we're coming into, just won't consider time. It will be much more quantum. So, as we step into an era of very uncharted waters, which will be full of radical change, what better way to start it than the sun being in Sagittarius, the adventurer? It deepens our quest for knowledge and for self-discovery and for truth. And if that is shining out on everybody, even those who might not necessarily seek the truth naturally, my Sagittarius rising has always been a truth seeker. If I was a superhero, I'd be Truth Girl. But Sagittarius is the philosopher and the truth seeker of the zodiac, and I have a searching for answers. It's to do with higher learning. It's to do with higher knowledge. That which is not maybe provable. All this science that's almost become like some kind of godlike thing, where if the science doesn't say it, then it's not true. You can't heal yourself, only we can heal you. All of that is where we are going to be diving in and searching for answers, deepening our faith in something that we can't see, but somewhere inside us we know. we know it exists. Not having to read it on the internet, because ChatGPT knows everything now, does it? I think I told you about my best friend Jackie. She's doing an AI branding course, and she's been chatting to ChatGPT a lot. And her way of balancing this and making sure that we use this in a good way, for good, is to teach it about love and compassion and unity and fairness and truth. So yeah, it's only going to learn from us. So sorry, having a bit of my tea. So I have got elderflower and yarrow tea today with a big dollop of fresh raw honey. And I just think, because I'm looking outside, I'm going to be having to work in this awful weather in the next week, out in my waterproof. So it's time to up the immune system and start taking precautions. So I'm having lots of herbal tea using echinacea and things like that. I highly recommend that you do the same. So I collect it throughout the spring and the summer, whatever is available, either in my gardens or gardens that we work in. And if it's not wanted, I bring it home, dry it, pop it into jars, and then when it's needed, it's there. Just pop in the teapot and infuse it for 10 minutes and drink. And definitely helps. So what else can I tell you? So yeah, expanding our horizons. Sagittarius is very blunt and honest, just says it how it is. Can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable, because if anyone's going to say it how it is in the room, it will usually be the Sagittarius or possibly the Aries. These fire signs, they tend to blat it out of their mouths, and authenticity is a really strong value of Sagittarius. So we are in Sagittarius season, so a time to look at our own authenticity. How honest are we being with ourselves, with others? Is it coming from a place of love, though? Do it from a place of love. Don't just say it to be hurtful. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is, as I said, currently shining brightly out there overhead, because at the moment it is our evening star. And I look up with wonder, and I just ask to have my cup filled with optimism, with abundance, with joy. And talking of joy, we had our second Gather Chelmsford event on Wednesday evening this week at a local restaurant called the Cozy Club, where they gave us the space for free, as long as everybody bought a drink. I had some food as well. We had 10 people there, including some teenagers, all ages, men, women, older, younger, and my teenage nieces. My sister-in-law was there on the sofa reading a book. My teenage niece was reading a book, and she said to me, "Auntie Kelly, I've been dying to read this book, but I'm always distracted by my phone." And they had sat and had a lovely conversation with their mum, because they weren't all on their devices or watching TV. And one lady brought her sewing along. I did an oracle card reading for somebody, and we had lovely conversation. And I really feel like we have started something, bringing people together for some offline time, because this is not going away. This online thing, this technology, it's not going away. We need to sit and surrender and accept that it's here for the long haul. We're in the age of Aquarius. There's only going to be more of it, and we've got no idea where it's going to take us. But let's make sure we don't lose that connection. Let's work harder at connecting with each other without devices and taking that time out. And I'm seeing this concept growing exponentially. There are music gigs happening where you put your phone in a sealed up thing where you can't use it, and you get it back out at the end. At our event, we just do it like the old school cloakroom, where you get a raffle ticket for your phone and you collect it at the end. And we know it was a success because one of our attendees said goodbye, left, and then came back because she'd forgotten her phone. So, she was so not bothered about being back on her phone that she left it behind and had to come back. So, absolute success. And it's a small seed at the moment, but I can see it growing into a mighty oak. I see an event in London where they had 150 people gathered together in a massive building. I think it was like a church or a cathedral or something. So I've got my sights set on Chelmsford Cathedral for a big event where we'll have some acoustic music and people will actually be listening and not watching through their phones. Can't wait. So Mercury stations retrograde on Monday. Mercury being retrograde, it's not all bad. Yes, it affects communications and travel and things like that. It's in the sign of Sagittarius at the moment. So Sagittarius represents long distance travel. So if you are traveling long distance, double check everything, get there early, leave early. Don't be surprised if there's some hold-ups. Just saying, back up your data. But it's always a good time to everything. So review, redo, renew, retreat, rest, all of those words. So I think being that it's in Sagittarius, that big picture, it's a good time to review what you really want, your big picture, what you really need to have that big picture, what needs clearing out, so that by the time the new moon arrives next weekend, you're ready to set your intentions for the next moon phase. On the 28th, I've got a professional organizer. She's a colleague of mine, a friend of mine. She's a professional organizer and she's coming to my house to help clear out my spare room. And we're just going to be categorizing at the moment. We're doing it step by step so I don't feel overwhelmed. But I know that I need my environment, my immediate environment around me to start to change, because Pluto being in Aquarius, for me as a Sagittarius rising, so if you're a Sagittarius rising, this will be the same for you. Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years is going to be highlighting your third house, which is to do with siblings, but it's to do with neighbours, your neighbourhood, your immediate environment. So that is the area of life that the next 20 years will be highlighting for me. So I'm thinking about, what environment do I want? I love my neighbours, so I'm happy to be with them. But will I get new neighbours? Will I be wanting to change my environment? And to do that, can't just do it straight away. We've got 20 years worth of change coming up. So on the note of the next new moon, just to let you know that we have in Chelmsford here, if you're local, in the Essex area, we have a new moon sound bath happening on Saturday the 30th at Studio Libra in Chelmsford, 7 till 9 p.m. And on Sunday, I'll have the new moon in Sagittarius ceremony, and that will be online from 8 till 9:30 p.m. So one of them, if you're local, come and get some sound healing for this new moon, for this coming phase. And if you can't be here locally, then you can join me online on Sunday to find out more detail about everything that's going on right now. So I really dive in much deeper, give you some journaling prompts. We do some oracle card journaling. We'll do a meditation and we'll do some intention setting for our wishes and what we want to manifest into our lives. So that's next weekend. And just wanted to tell you, things of the future. I think that sound healing is the new Saturday night social. And I think this might be my new strap line. sound healing is also the new stripogram. Because I have just done a surprise sound healing for a 40th birthday for a group of ladies last weekend. And by the time I got home from that, I had another message asking me to do a surprise birthday sound healing on a Saturday. So that's 2 in a row. And the 40th birthday, she said, you haven't got me a stripper, have you? And I was like, I hope she's not disappointed that I'm not a stripper. It's sound healing. So sound healing is a new stripogram. You heard it from me first. So what else do I want to fit in before we finish up here? Because we're already 25 minutes in. I was a bit overexcited today after having a week off. So Pluto in Aquarius. Remember, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was between 1778 and 1798. So go check out the history and dig a little deeper than just what Google and Wikipedia give you. Go diving in there to see what else happened around that time. I always wonder, because we only ever get his story, don't we? The story that we've been led to believe, the only story. And there are millions of stories, of people's stories out there. So maybe check back in your own family history, your own local history, to see what was going on between 1778 and 1798. What innovation was there? I know the guillotine was invented around that time. Aquarius, 11th sign of the zodiac. It's fixed sign, so it's very fixed energy. It's a yang, masculine energy. It's the air sign. It's an air sign, as I said, ruled by Saturn and Uranus. So it's quite complex because it's paradoxical, with such a wide range of themes. The themes are groups and communities, friendships, collective movements like gather, humanitarian causes, people coming together to come to fruition and actualize a vision that they might have shared together. And it's connected to technology, science, progress. We might see that Pluto goes in and shows us what's underneath that needs to be seen and got rid of, the death and rebirth of some of these subjects, the rebirth of people coming together in different ways. I know there's a lot of dance things happening again, so much dance happening out there. I had a conversation with a friend I haven't seen for a really long time yesterday, and she said, I want to start doing disco dancing. Let's start up a disco dancing night. So I've got a disco moon, and her son, who's 16, he's got a disco ball. So I know that Katie, who I do gather with, she has dreams of holding an event where she facilitates walking the labyrinth under a disco ball. So these are, great old and new ways bringing together, bringing people back together again to socialise and feel a sense of community again. Aquarius also represents the internet, social media, electricity, the quantum, AI, space travel, as I said, anything intergalactic. Is also a very objective and detached sign, can detach. So we can experience, maybe, I think that's what we're experiencing at the moment, actually, is what's going to show us first, is how detached and sort of, the lack of empathy that's kind of escalated in the past few years, and how can we kind of come away from that, change that, and turn that into a more compassionate way again. With Saturn being in Pisces, hopefully we can find some systems and ways of getting that Pisces compassion. But as I said, the new ways will be quantum. Also, next year, Uranus will be moving into another air sign, and that's Gemini, and that's actually happening on my birthday on July the 7th. So we will have Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, in the sign of Gemini, so double air. So it really will be highlighting the speed of things, the communication. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So all this AI technology communication, it's really going to get faster. And you can hear me talking faster, trying to fit in this last moment, last couple of minutes of this podcast. So just to say, as we're under this last quarter moon in Virgo, it's a really good time to any unfinished projects, get them out of the way, focus on wrapping things up. I have got myself set for the rest of this weekend to finish some unfinished projects. I have many. My Sagittarius rising has me, starting things and then not finishing them. So it's a turning point or a crossroads, this moon phase. So clear the way for the new moon so you can start again in a better way in this Sagittarius energy. Also, our nervous systems can feel a little at the moment. So get off this social media, stop, light a candle, spend some time just looking into the flame, calming your nervous system with some deep breaths. Simply notice how you feel. Get something finished and you'll get a healthy shot of dopamine instead of cortisol. Okay, you get dopamine when you have a sense of achievement. So I hope this has served you in some way. Apologies to those of you who really missed me last weekend. And back to it now. And just seeing if a card will pop out for us really quickly here. What card do we have? And it is card number 1 in the deck of the good tarot, the Magician. He looks like an Aquarian Uranus magician to me. And being that he is literally number 1, it's all about alchemy. When I am in alignment with Spirit's will, miracles are possible. When I see this card, I am reminded that my will and skill alone will yield limited results. When I remember my partnership with Spirit, all is well. I'm required to explore my commitment to this co-creative, alchemical relationship and see the results manifest beautifully through me. Spirit works magic. Let's see what we can create for this upcoming new moon. Details for my online moon ceremony will be in the show notes, and a link for tickets for our new moon gong bath will be there too. And I'll see you all next week.